This is the OnStage Blog Theater Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Earhart, part of the editorial staff of OnStageBlog.com. And joining me is Jacqueline Collier, co-host of the OnStage Blog Theater Podcast. Jacqueline, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to dive into part two.
Very good. And also joining me, he's just finished rewatching both Jesus Christ Superstar and Godspell and every other production that's available to YouTube in preparation for Easter. That is Chris Peterson. Chris, owner and founder of OnStageBlog.com. How you doing?
Hello, hello. Yes, absolutely. Happy Easter weekend.
Yeah, happy Easter. So this is part two. If you didn't join us for part one, so part one of the podcast involved Jacqueline as a professional actor and acting coach, laying out her top five pet peeves about directors she has worked with, and Chris responded. Now in part two, we're going to flip it. So now Chris, as a veteran community theater director, is going to give his top five pet peeves about working with actors. And Jacqueline's going to respond on behalf of actors because we couldn't get the actors Chris worked with on the podcast, unfortunately. So, Chris, I know you were seething during part one because you had to bear the brunt of all the pet peeves and criticisms.
Right,
Jack
so
had
offensive.
about.
Yes, so offended. Personal attacks. Yes.
Well, Chris, go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
Well, it was amazing.
Any order, but go ahead. Your first.
Yeah.
What's your first pet peeve?
When I started making this list, it was like, oh, I'll just do five, and then five turned into 15, and 15 turned into 30. So I had to really stop. But I'm gonna do this in chronological order, and I'm gonna start with what drives me nuts during auditions all the way through the end of the performance run. So really, my first one off the bat that happens during auditions is when actors blatantly ignore audition instructions, whether it comes to don't do this type of material or don't do that type of cut. Please bring in sheet music. Don't do it a cappella. Please, have this prepared. And they just don't. It's either they come in unprepared or they've blatantly ignored audition instructions.
Jax, why is this? Is this just forgetfulness? Are actors typically like ditzes or dunces, or is it just willful? Defend yourself. Defend yourself in your profession.
Defend myself. I think it's all over the map. I think it's some actors who simply have not read the audition instructions closely enough. Some actors who think they know better. And then some actors maybe not having the time and access to certain things. Like for example, it's like, okay, maybe it's difficult for them they don't have a voice coach. So it's difficult for them to get sheet music or be able to sing with the sheet music. And this is if it's at a non-professional level, maybe they just found out about the audition and they have a monologue, but it doesn't fit with this show, but they're like, you know what? I'm going to go and take a crack at it anyway. But I do think a lot of times it's because they just haven't been paying attention, which I think is very unfortunate and not a great way to start off a potential working relationship with a director or a theater.
Chris, do you have any sympathy for Jacqueline's arguments here, or no?
No sympathy whatsoever. No.
Okay, all right, a very good one. Chris, what do you got next?
All right.
The second.
So once an actor is cast, there's a lot of factors that go into their casting beyond their talent. Sometimes it's based on their availability. So one of my biggest pet peeves is when actors, after they're cast, all of a sudden have all of these new conflicts that they didn't list on their conflict sheet during the audition period. This drives me absolutely crazy. And I have actually in the past have fired actors from shows that didn't tell me that they were going away for 2 weeks during the rehearsal period on a vacation to Florida or things like that. Or have a second job or a part-time job that just they forgot to mention in the conflicts. That drives me up the wall.
Presumably, obviously, if they laid it out on their conflict sheet, they would not be cast, right? Because you can't miss 2 weeks out of
Depends.
that,
Yeah, you never know, but it seems like, and I'll be honest, I've probably done the same at some point, in time, but actors are worried that if they have too many conflicts during this rehearsal period, they're not even going to be considered to be the cast. But that's the reality. If you're going to be gone for 60% of the rehearsal process, I'm not going to cast you. So
Is it typically from younger actors, or is this from all actors of all ages? Really? Yeah,
all
even.
ages, no, everybody's guilty.
So, Jacqueline, why are actors such cowards when it comes to the conflict sheet? Why don't they?
Yeah, we really, really want the job. We really, really want to be there. We want to be able to do the show. And look, I am totally with you, Chris. This is so unfair and so disrespectful because not only is it making it difficult on the director, it's not fair to the other actors who were honest about their conflicts. With that being said, I have definitely done this in like I won't, it's not like I've completely lied, but I've been like no conflicts and then been like, but if I could get off for my cousin's wedding, that would be great. Like I'm not
And
saying
then
I
I'd
have
fire you
to.
immediately. I'd be like,
Exactly.
no,
Exactly.
be
No, you
gone with
can't.
you.
No, you can't. But yeah, we are afraid because we know we have, I think a lot of actors have a scarcity mindset of like, this is my shot. I've got to be the most available and I've got to, I'd rather ask forgiveness rather than permission. But it's
Mhm.
not fair because people are being honest and it doesn't allow the director and really the whole production team to plan accordingly.
Now, on the
I,
flip side, I will always be, that's if a director is disorganized and the rehearsal schedule keeps changing and all that other stuff, then it is the director's fault if they are, all of a sudden creating conflicts for actors that weren't there to begin with. So, I just want to make sure I point that out too.
And Jack, I think you hit on it as far as I think the old axiom: asking for forgiveness is easier than asking for permission. I also think, and this is Chris, I'm betting you went through this mindset when you did this yourself. Was sort of like, I could talk the director out of this. Once I get the job and he sees how awesome I am, in this role, he'll let me go. It's fine,
Of
He'll
course.
no problem. I can talk my way out of this, which is obviously not helpful, and many times isn't true. So, all right, that's a good one. Chris, what do you got? What's your third biggest pet
Oh my
peeve?
God, this is a big one. I drives me nuts when I'm giving notes, and the actor isn't writing them down.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
it also drives me nuts when I go to a restaurant and I give my order to the wait service and they don't write it down. And I just know that there's gonna be a mistake someplace. So
Mhm.
no matter what the note is, no, and an actor could tell me I've got the world's greatest memory. It's okay. Or it's not I'm like, you're gonna forget the note. You're not gonna remember this. I'm gonna give you so many notes that like you're not gonna remember all 30 notes, and things like that. Especially as we get into like tech week and you're just sitting after, the rehearsal's over and just going through all these notes. If I see an actor not doing anything to remember them, it drives me nuts. I'm gonna shout out real quick my friend Kristen Feeney, who would bring a tape recorder during note sessions and actually record the director giving notes. I love that when that happens. But yeah, right. An actor that doesn't write down their notes when given to them just drives me nuts.
Okay, Jacqueline, response.
Yeah, I think an actor should always write down their notes. I actually do think also the tape recorder is great because I know for me, and this is even not just me as an actor, but like when I was a student, I would realize that sometimes I was so obsessed with taking notes that I actually wasn't even really listening in the moment or even really getting it or metabolizing it. So I think that now I think it's helpful if I'm getting notes for a director and like jotting little things down, but I'm mostly listening and then the recording is helpful to go back later and be like, okay, what were the nuances of that? Because I was very in the moment listening so that I can implement it and ask questions, but I have the recording and I have my idea of what the director was saying written down too, like jotted down.
Yeah, so I guess I'll defend the non-note taker actor for a second because I know this from a business context, in the office environment that some people just they don't take notes. And I've learned that some of it is just the way they process information, where it's if they're writing as it's happening, they're not listening to, or they're
Yeah.
not focusing on the content of it. And so I think it does come down to the way people learn and process, and people do learn and process differently. I think the tape recorder is an interesting compromise, because you can do
Yeah.
both, right? That way you can do both. And some people really are auditory
Yeah.
learners, where it's they play it back and they learn through, like, they just don't learn reading off notes or even write it down, especially if anyone's like me and their handwriting's terrible. I can't tell you how many handwritten notes I've taken where I'm like, what did I write here? What was this chicken scratch? And like, oh, I wrote this, and so I think
Yeah,
that's
but
no that's yeah.
there's actors who have like 30 pages of notes and then they don't implement a single one because they don't read them again.
Right, and
They
that's
don't read
that's
them.
real in a lot of contexts. Is right, yeah. No, I mean, you take pages note. I'm like, who's got time for this? I got things to do. I've got acting to do. So, well, that's interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, it does sound like there's ways to get around. Well, however you learn, there's ways to accommodate it. So, going back to your point, Chris, no excuses. Do you fire it? Do you fire them on the spot if they're not taking notes? Is that a fireable
Yes.
offense?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I would
Okay.
rather
All
them
right.
fake it. I would rather, if so you mentioned the auditory learners, I would rather someone fake it and just be like, sure, Chris, blah, 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 blah. But listening to me, like, that's fine. But again, going back to your point, I think like as long as there's open communication. So if an actor tells me, hey, just let you know, like I learn better by listening. I'm not gonna write a lot of notes down when you give them to me, but I promise I'll remember everything. As long as they do it, like that's
Right.
okay, great. But like, yeah, they just gotta remember the notes. So yeah.
So I think what we're learning is on shows Chris directs, the cast of 10 turned into like a cast of two, and the two people just do all the parts here because Chris is just
Yep.
firing people left and right for
Left and right, just
grievances.
left and right. Absolutely.
All right. What are we on? Number four, I believe?
Number
Yeah, number four.
four.
Yeah.
All right. This one's a big one for me. So Tech Week is stressful for everybody. It's just one of those weeks where everything's coming together at the last thing. So what really drives me nuts is when I witness actors being unkind to running crew, tech crew, stage managers, anyone back, dressers, makeup people, because of reasons and things like that. Because in my opinion, everybody's playing a role, whether you're on stage or off stage or backstage and things like that. So everybody should be treating everybody with respect. But one of my big pet peeves is all of a sudden Tech Week happens, all these actors become like, I hate to use the word diva, but all of a sudden it's like these people are somehow beneath me because I'm on stage and you're not, type of deal. Drives me nuts.
This happens a lot.
Yes.
Really? Wow.
Every production I've ever
unfortunate.
done, I witness something like that and have to have a talk with somebody. Yeah.
Jacqueline, why are actors and actresses divas? And explain yourself. You don't ever act like the person Chris is talking about. We know that, right?
Here's the thing. Not only do I agree with this, oh, it makes my blood boil, but even more doubling down on this. For actors in Tech Week, it's not your time. Am I allowed to say bitch on here? It's not your time, bitch. Okay. It's not about you right now. You've had the entire rehearsal process. Not only should you be super kind to everyone else who's in this process, they're kind of just getting implemented into it at this point, or they haven't had as much time as you. Not only should you be kind to them, but you should not even be bringing your neurotic, self-obsessed energy to it. Like, you need to be presenting the best version of yourself. I was thinking about this because I just did a movie, and this is different being on a film set, but as an actor on a film set, I have pretty much the easiest job on the entire set. I've like gotten to do all my work before. I have to come on totally prepared because they have all these things that they're dealing with in the moment. And that's how I feel about actors during Tech Week. All your work should have been done before. You are here to like be the hype person. Don't you dare be rude to people, and don't you dare take up more space than you should, which is not that much. You're here to do your one job that you've been working on. That one makes my blood boil. Blood boil.
Well, I couldn't have even pretended to say that any better. Well done. And I hope you let these people know when you see them in person, you give the exact same speech with the exact same temperament.
Well,
You hear it like
wait,
that.
why do they do it? A couple of things. They think they're better than people, one.
Yeah.
Or two, they're so insecure. And Tech Week is making them go, holy crap, I actually don't know my stuff. How can I deflect this attention?
Oh, I see. Yeah, right. Probably that's right. Even in the office world, it's like, if you don't want the light shine on you, shine on somebody else doing worse than you. And that's a real tactic, and I'm sure that's real in the theater world
Hmm.
too. All right, the last one, Chris, for you. What do you got?
So I've got a last one and then an honorable mention after this. So
Yeah,
You
we'll
have
get,
to.
but the last one, this doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, I just want to throw my hands up in the air. So, and it's really only in a non-professional theater setting. So this does not apply to like Broadway or off Broadway or professional theater, but when you're in the middle of a run and you witness actors coming in and they seem like it's right before a performance and they're just like, oh, okay, here we go again. Performance number 3, everybody. And I'm like, you got cast in a show. Like this is the fun part of it. Like this is not a job. This is not a task. Like, why are you angry, or why does it take you a lot to get, hyped up to perform and be excited to be here type of deal. So when I see people like walking into the green room or dressing room and being like, oh my God, it's, performance number 3 of a 4 performance run. Like, I have to somehow muster the energy. And I'm like, get out of here. Like, by the way, that if I see that in certain settings, yeah, immediate fire. No, but like I might hesitate to cast them again because that type of low energy can be absolutely poisonous to a dressing room, green room situation. And yeah, it just drives me nuts, drives me batty. But if you're doing if you're on Broadway and you're doing 7 or 8 performances a week, I get, like, I understand it's a job. It's a job at that point. So I understand it.
right.
But in that non-setting, like, come on now. This is the fun part.
Yeah, I would think it would be, they'd look at it more in sadness, right? It's like, oh, we only have 2 more performances to go, especially if it's a limited run. Like, we're only doing 4 shows. It should be like, oh, I can't believe it's almost over, the versus like a grind, because this is what you've been working towards. But Jacqueline, I won't ask you to defend this one. I don't believe
No, I
it's
mean,
defensible, but
I also think even in a professional setting, to me, it's sad. Like, look, I did this same show, Sex Tips for Straight Women from a Gay Man. I did this show for like off and on for 4 years. And I'm not trying to sound cheesy or like, oh my gosh, I love theater, but I do. I mean, it's a 90-minute show. It's light, it's fun, it's funny. We're not like, it wasn't like I was putting my MFA to use, but like, I don't know. I always felt grateful to be doing it. And sometimes, yes, when I would go into like work, did I want to be like alone in my dressing room and I was feeling more introverted or whatever, but I was always trying to bring a good energy. And I don't know. I think whether you're volunteering to do it, you should be excited about it. And if you're getting paid to do it, even more so. Like,
yeah,
what are we doing here? And it's okay you don't have to be like doing cartwheels and backflips. Like, I'm so excited, but like to bring in a sort of negative energy. And I mean, Chris is absolutely right. I think that poisons people. It also makes people think like it would make me feel, because I've been in situations like that, like, oh, I'm dorky to be excited. I guess I gotta
right.
complain because this is a grind. And
That I
yeah,
That's a great point, because I think that applies to a lot of different things, not just theater. But right, it's cool to be like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this.
yeah,
Versus enthusiasm, earnestness has not been cool for a while, but it really is cool when you think about it. Because passion, loving what you do, that's the dream, honestly. No, I
that's
mean, whatever
100%.
it is. Yeah.
And when I remember doing summer stock, and we were doing like 8 shows in like 9 weeks or something. And I remember all of us being tired, but even all of us, it was like free room and board at the place that we did it, but we weren't getting paid. And I remember just being like,
Okay.
all of us like would complain in a really fun way, but we were all like so excited. And that's the kind of fun camaraderie of like, wow, this is so hard, but not actually bringing down the energy. It's just such a bummer. We're playing, it's fun.
Yeah, I think it was Christopher Lee who said it doesn't matter what movie you're in, it can be terrible as long as you're great in it. That's the only thing you should be like. Be great in whatever it is. It applies to everything, to be honest, but especially at theater too. Whatever it is, you're working for room and board and just silly. Just
Yeah.
just be great in it, and that alone will elevate, the performance that you're in. All right, Chris, an honorable mention, and then Jack, I want to get to you if you have anything to add to this.
So again, I had a list of like 30 some odd pet peeves. So it was tough
Okay.
to know. I had everything from like actors skipping out on strike to ensemble
Oh,
makers making it all about themselves to people that just want to do their line like or song like it's done on the Broadway cast album, like, but I had to narrow it down to one honorable mention, and this drives me nuts more than anything else as a director. And that is when I witness last performance hijinks on stage. When actors, and I can't remember in England they have a term for it, and I can't remember what the English term is, but there's a term for like in that last performance where you might switch, drinks on stage, or you might change this line or do something different than you've done doing there because it's the last performance. That drives me crazy because you've got a new audience there that's never seen this show before, and all of a sudden this cast is changing things just to have an inside joke or laugh, on the inside. Drives me up the wall. Drives me up the wall. And
All right,
I've done it as
Jacqueline.
an actor.
I had to say, is there any reason to do, or is there a way to do this? Because I personally agree with Chris on this. Like, you have to treat every show like it's someone's first time seeing it. But is there a way to, uh, well, explain the reasoning behind why actors do it, and then is there a way to do this without being too offensive to the overall audience experience?
I think there's something about, I mean, this is me really giving the benefit of the doubt. There's
Yeah,
something about what we do being like, this is the last time I'm going to do it that feels so like, eh, there's such a finality that it's like, I want to live as much of this as I can. And I think that sometimes people like lose sight of what they're doing. Is there a way to do it that's, I think you can maybe like add a little extra spice to something without it being a different performance, but you and the person that are in it, you guys know. But honestly, like hijinks, no, ain't nobody got time for that. Do that afterwards at the cast party. Like, what are we doing?
right. Right. Yeah, or definitely something different. The curtain call, maybe, or yeah, right, right, yeah. All right, Jacqueline, do you have anything to add? I know in part one you teased that you had some of your own pet peeves towards fellow actors and actresses. So what do you have for us?
I'm sure these are on Chris's list, but I have two that are like pretty straightforward and simple. Actors who just don't know their lines.
Oh,
Like, I remember this was in grad school. This guy was a professional actor. He's also like a dear friend of mine. But he was doing a production of Dangerous Liaisons, and he was playing Valmont. And sorry, Chris, I'm putting you on blast. Not you, Chris. The guy's name is also Chris. And I love him. He's a fantastic actor. But he didn't know his lines pretty close to the production. And he was like, well, that's what it was. Okay. His students came and reviewed the show, and I guess they didn't know that he would get the review. And he said something like, it seemed like Belmont didn't know his lines. And he goes, they don't realize like there's so much more to acting than just knowing your lines. And I was like, there is, but that is like the base level of it. And actors who don't know their lines, it's like you can't really work and be in the moment. Like I'm a big proponent of getting off book, like not necessarily the first rehearsal, but maybe by like maybe once you've blocked the show. It's okay also if you, but like I can't with that. You have, that's your homework. You got to do that.
yeah. I Let me jump in here. It's funny. The one thing that's really kept me from trying to be in community theater productions is I can't memorize lines for anything anymore. Which is funny because in middle school, that one play I did, I was the only kid who could memorize like the entire Petruchio's entire lives, which felt like it was the Bible, as long as the Bible. But now I can't memorize lines. Like I really want to do improv theater, but like that I'm really comfortable because I love the acting experience and especially comedic acting. But I cannot. Maybe that's a separate podcast where you can teach me how to remember lines
Are
because
you
I
sure
just
you
I
can't?
can't.
I bet you could.
Oh, I've tried in very smaller instances, and the problem is I get hung up on specific words. Like it's and like I remember the line as a whole, but I don't remember the very specific order of words or like it's something silly as like I'll say meal instead of dinner, or that's what I think it, or I'm like, oh wait, am I supposed to say dinner or am I supposed to say lunch or something
Uh,
along those lines? And I
I
get hung up in
actually
the moment. Yeah.
I have a tactic for that. if you ever want to go over stuff, because I was just working on
Yeah.
this with a student and she was doing the same thing for Ibsen's play The Wild Duck. And she kept saying came instead of arrived. And I was like, first of all, you got to take I was like, it's actually okay if you say came for the audition, like, no big deal. Like, you take the fear out of it. And then I'm like, oh, but this is Ibsen. So you've arrived. And like, you've arrived. And then you make something kind of silly out of it. So, like, that's the game of the thing. But you also take the air out of it and be like, you know what? Let's just do a pass where it's messy and you don't know it. And that's okay. Let's just get the gist. And then you go in and like really kind of
Don't you
like hit
have
it.
to get the words exactly right for a play? I thought,
Uh,
like, for
I
licensing
I
reasons.
I feel like yeah, I feel like you should, but I feel like when you're in the rehearsal process, you need to not hold on to it. It's like
Right,
it's like
right.
when you're cleaning a room and like when something is a mess. I know it's not going to look pretty when I'm cleaning it up, and I have to be okay with it looking like absolute crap when I'm cleaning it up. And learning lines like actually should feel pretty messy, and that's
Hmm.
okay. Like, you don't have to
Hmm.
beat yourself up if it's feeling messy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Jacqueline, if you take non-high school students on as
I do.
clients, I'll give you a call. Yeah.
And Greg, just,
Maybe.
in the meantime, while you're learning that, I would have fired you from the production. So just let you know that, like, I would have
Right. You're gonna find me from
immediately.
OnStage blog for not remembering
Absolutely.
lines yet.
Gone, gone.
He's like, but I'm working with my acting coach. I'm gonna get it.
Like, for a week, I swear. For a week. Jacqueline, do you have any other pet peeves that you wanted to
The
throw
last
out?
the last one is actors who say that they're like gonna save it or bring it on opening night or like sometime before that. I This is like more common than I actually realized. It actually happened on a show that I was producing last year, and two of the actors were like, I'm saving it. Like, they said it differently
What
than
does that
that.
mean?
Basically,
What
like,
is,
you're going to mark it for the rehearsals so you can save it for the performance. What? Like, you
well,
should
they're
be able,
tanking rehearsals because
like, they're
they're
just
like, I
kind of,
gotta save all my effort
yeah,
for opening night.
like the same way, in which I think this is great for dancers and singers in certain situations. The same way a singer will like
Sure.
mark it, not do a full out. A dancer will mark it, not do a full out. It's
Okay.
one thing if you're doing a line through or whatever, but I had two actors in this production that I worked on that they literally were doing different things in a dress rehearsal that was completely different than what they worked on. And they were like, well, I just felt it tonight. I like finally felt it. I was like, and it caused a lot of problems for other people in the show. And I just,
I'm sure. I'm sure.
it's selfish. It's selfish. And also you do have the energy. You're not like, don't, come on. Come on. It's a muscle.
All right. Well, very good. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Jacqueline. That does wrap up this episode. If you did not see part one, which is Jacqueline's pet peeves about directors, you can find the link in the summary of either YouTube or the podcast that you're listening or watching this from. Otherwise, check out OnStage blog at onstageblog.com and all of our social media channels, which is at OnStage blog for Facebook, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, TikTok, all of it. And you can check out more of Jacqueline, which she and Rachel will be doing another podcast, I think, soon,
Yep.
for the Onstage Black Theater podcast. And subscribe, please, to the podcast, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. We appreciate your support very much. Chris and Jax, thank you, and we'll do some form of this again, whether it's theater advice or something, something down the road, very very soon. So goodbye.